Alright guys, copy down the notes from 3H. This is Rational Indices, exercise 3H. I actually call it Fractional Indices. So it's when you've got a base and the power is a fraction. So that's what this exercise is about. A little bit hard to understand, but if you listen, it's not going to be too bad. So, if you remember our first rule, when you're multiplying with the same base, what you do with the powers? You add them together. So that was from our previous rule. So in this case, if we've got 9 to the power of a half, times by 9 to the power of a half, same base, multiply, you add the powers together. So a half plus a half is 1. So our answer is 9 to the power of 1, which is just 9. So if we look at that, 9 to the power of a half times 9 to the power of a half is equal to 9. So that's our rule from the very first rule in indices. So what does that actually mean? If you look, what number, these two numbers are identical. So what two numbers that are the same multiply together to give you 9? And hopefully you know your square numbers and you know that 3. 3 times 3 is 9. It's the only possibility. So that means 3 times 3 is equal to 9. So these two equations are actually the same. So therefore we can determine that 9 to the power of a half is actually the same as 3. It's exactly the same. They're the same number because these equations both equal 9. So 9 to the power of a half is actually equal to the square root of 9 because that equals 3. So I've just proven to you that this whole thing about fractional indices, if you've got something to the power of a half, the power of a half means it's a square root. So that's the rule that I've just tried to prove to you, and I'll explain how it works when we actually do this. So let's have a look. So we start off with a to the power of a half. I've used the base of a each time. A to the power of a half just means the square root of a, because I've just proven it to you over there in the previous example. Same thing when we've got a to the power of 1/3. Now that means when it's a fraction like that, this one's a square root, but when it's the power of a third, it's a cube root. So hopefully you remember what cube root means. I'll give you a quick rundown. 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2, which is equal to 8. So 2 cubed is equal to 8. The opposite of that is the cube root of 8. So when you've got the cube root of 8, it means what number multiplied by itself 3 times is equal to 8, and the answer is 2. So hopefully you remember from previous years, you remember what the cube root means. So a to the power of a third is the cube root of a. Next one, a to the power of a quarter is the fourth root of a. It's exactly the same, but it means the fourth root. So as you can see, the number on the bottom, so the denominator, is the root value. So this one's the fourth root, this one's a cube root, this one's a square root. Okay, now when we've got a fraction like a to the power of 2/3, if we just had a to the power of 2, we know what that is, it's a squared. So we've got a squared there. And then the bottom number, if we had a to the power of a third, it means a cube root. So when we combine the two, the top number is the power, so it's a squared, and the bottom number is the root, so it's the cube root. So pretty much, the a to the power of 2/3 is a squared, and then you cube root it as well. So same as for the next example, a to the power of 5/7. The top number is the power, so it means a to the power of 5, and the bottom number is the root, so it means the 7th root of that. So it's a to the power of 5 and the 7th root. So that's how you write it in surd form. This is in index form. And that's it. That's what this whole exercise is about. So I said there, the numerator, so the top line is the power, and the denominator, so the bottom line, is the root. So like the square root or cube root or fourth root. Alright, hopefully you're okay with that. Let's tie this all up and do some examples now. So if you come over here to my last board, these are the type of questions you'll get in a test. First one, square root 15 expressed in index form. So this is in surd form at the moment. So the square root, if you remember just from a few minutes ago, the square root means to the power of a half. So to write this in index form, you write down 15 to the power of a half, and we're done. Because the power of a half means square root. So that was an easy one. Next question. We've got two different things inside the square root this time. So the square root means to the power of a half, and you have to do it separately for each of the things inside. So first the basic numeral, 7. We go 7 to the power of a half, because that's the square root of 7. And then we've got x to the power of 5, that needs to be the power of a half as well. So remember, the power goes on the top line, and the root bit goes on the bottom line. So we have x to the power of 5 over 2. And that's our answer. So we write it like that, 7 to the power of a half, and x is to the power of 5, and then over 2, so it's to the power of 5 over 2. Hopefully you're okay with doing that one. Now the next question, write in index form, the 3, nothing's happening to the 3, so we leave the 3 by itself, leave it alone. Now, this one's x to the power of 7, and it's the 4th root this time. So if you remember, the root goes on the bottom line, doesn't it? And the power's on the top line. So it's just x to the power of 7 over 4. How easy is that? Remember, the power's on the top line and the 4th root, so it goes over 4. 4's on the bottom line. Are we all good? Excellent. Now the last one, this is a bit of a tricky one. Trick question. Remember what we said, the 10 is by itself, so you just don't do anything to it. And that means times in between those two. So times. And the square root. The square root means to the power of a half. Right from our very first thing. So we go times by 10 to the power of a half. Now you might just want to leave it like that. But if you notice, 10 by itself is actually 10 to the power of 1. Anything to the power of 1 is itself. So now, if you remember that first rule again, when you've got the same base and you're multiplying, you add the powers together. So if you know how to add 1 and a half, it's 1 and a half, or if you add them as fractions, this is the same as 2 over 2. So if you add the fractions together, it's 3 over 2. So we get 10 to the power of 3 over 2. I'll just go over that again. 10 is by itself, so that's 10 to the power of 1, which I've written there as 2 over 2. Square root of 10 is 10 to the power of a half. So you add those powers together because you're multiplying with the same base. So 1 plus a half is 1 and a half. And 1 and a half is the same as 3 over 2. I wouldn't write to the power of 1 and a half, I'd write to the power of 3 over 2. Excellent. Now let's do it in reverse, expressing surd form this time. So 3 to the power of 1/5. That means it's the 5th root. So it's the 5th root of 3. And that's it. That was easy, wasn't it? Excellent. Next one, we've got 5 to the power of 2/3. The top number's the power, so we go 5 squared. The bottom number's the root, that's the cube root. And so we write it like that. So we've written it in surd form. It doesn't say evaluate or solve, so we just leave it like that. And that's the answer in surd form. Excellent. Alright, so we've got a couple more questions this time, and it says evaluate without a calculator. So evaluate means solve it. We need an actual answer for it. So the first one, 16 to the power of a half. If we remember from a few minutes ago, we know a power of a half means the square root. So let's rewrite it in surd form, square root of 16. And hopefully you know that the square root of 16 is 4. So the answer is 4. Always a good idea to show your workings out, so actually writing in surd form, it helps, and there's our answer, 4. Alright, that was too easy. The next one, 16 to the power of 3/4. Now, there are two things you have to do to the base 16. The 3 says you must cube the number, and the 4 on the bottom says you have to find the 4th root of that number. Now, it doesn't matter which order you do it in. So I can find the cube root, I can find 16 cubed if I wanted to. But that's a lot of work. 16 times 16 times 16. Without a calculator, that's going to really annoy me. So I'm going to use common sense, and find the fourth root of 16 first. So it might actually help to say there's 16, I'm going to find the fourth root of it, and then I'm going to cube root the answer. So it doesn't matter which order you do it in, is my point. So let's work out the fourth root of 16. So what number multiplied by itself 4 times equals 16? If you think about it, 2 is the answer, because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 equals 16. Or another way to say it is 2 to the power of 4 is equal to 16. So therefore, the fourth root of 16 is equal to 2. So that bit there in the brackets is equal to 2. But we've still got to cube it. It's much easier to cube 2 than it is to do it the other way. So 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So 8's our answer. So hopefully you use common sense. I don't want to see anyone try to cube 16 and then get the fourth root of that. It's almost impossible without a calculator. So do it the other way. Fourth root of 16 is 2, then 2 cubed is 8. Use common sense. Now the last question, it's got a combination of all our rules in it. It's got a negative 27 to the power of negative 2/3. First thing we need to do is make it a positive power. From our negative indices lesson, to make it a positive power, this is on the top line. So you bring it down to the bottom line. So to make it a positive power, you make it 1 over. Then it's 27 to the power of 2/3. So that's our first step. Now, again, we've got a choice. We've got 2 things to do. This 27, we have to square it, and we have to find the cube root of it. I am not going to square 27, too much work. So let's be smart and find the cube root of 27 first, and then we'll square that answer. So the cube root of 27, hopefully you can do mental maths and realise that's 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So the cube root of 27 is 3. So we've got 3, but we've still got to square that number. Like I said, it doesn't matter which order you do it in, but be smart about it. So this is 1 over 3 squared, and 3 squared is 9. So our answer is 1 over 9. So just remember which way you do, which order you're going to do the questioning. Thank you.